An article published on the Australian website quotes Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa as saying that one of the greatest problems the Sri Lankan army had was heavy-duty weaponry being brought in by the Tigers.
In the article, the Secretary of Defence had noted that most of the Tiger weapons were bought in the open market, some with North Korean origin.
The Australian quotes the Secretary of Defence as saying, quote, "Their artillery and mortar were often enough to match the Sri Lankan army, or even more than the Sri Lankan army had. Their artillery caused a lot of our casualties." Unquote. The article reads that one turning point in the war came when the Sri Lanka army was able to sink the Tiger supply ships, which would loiter outside Sri Lankan waters, while flotillas of small craft would go out and collect weapons from them. The Secretary of Defence had noted, quote, "Between 2006 and 2008, we destroyed 12 of these floating armories. What made this possible? The Americans were very, very helpful. Most of the locations of these ships were given to us by the Americans." Unquote.
The Australian had also quoted Selvarasa Padmanathan alias KP in one of their articles.
Selvarasa Padmanathan, also known as KP, had noted that the transformation of American and international thinking generally after 9/11 meant the Tiger's path of armed conflict was not longer a viable long-term strategy. The Australian quotes KP as saying, quote, "We couldn't oppose the whole world, but Prabhakaran was opposed to peace negotiations. He used peace negotiations only as a timeout to rebuild his army." Unquote.